Bonjour people, it's Jacob on the one up top. Before you do anything, like, share, subscribe, comment, do all of that. You know what it is. The reason why I started off with a bonjour is because there's a Frenchman that I've got to shout out for a performance today. Now, he wasn't brilliant, but you know, he's had a tough time. He's not even a French man, he's a French boy. Matthias Tell, you know, he's not a striker. I'm not even sure if he's a winger. I'm not even sure if he's up to the level of taking Tottenham to the next level, but he's got a lot of stick. He's got a lot of stick from Tottenham fans in general. For me, you know, I'll give him stick, but it's more the managers that have brought him on, you know, and relied on him to do this when he's just a kid. Do you know what I mean? It's like he should be eased into our squad. He should be eased into Premier League games, and then when he's firing on all cylinders, bring him in. So with all the stuff that he's had, you know, bringing him out of the Champions League squad, getting barely any minutes, sorry, not bare minutes. All I can do is commend him, you know. Goals a deflected effort, but even though the guy's out of confidence, you know, he's took the shot on and got us the goal. And I predicted in this game that Leeds were going to take the lead and then we're going to end up drawing 2-2. And I feel that if Tell didn't put us in the lead, probably would have ended up 2-2 because Leeds were a good side today. You know, even though I've mentioned Tell and all of that, the first thing I need to do is commend Leeds, to be fair, because Leeds played well. You know, they give us a good game. You know, if you're a neutral, whether you wanted Tottenham to lose or Leeds to lose or you weren't bothered, there was a good game of football. I enjoyed it as a Spurs fan, and I love football before anything. So I always look at that and think that would have been a good game for everybody to watch, regardless of where your allegiances lie. But yeah, you know, Leeds were dogged. You know, you got to remember they've just come up from the Championship. Everyone's, you know, looking at them as a shoo-in for going down. And if I'm completely honest, the performance that they put in that game, as well as other games that I've seen them play. I remember watching them play Newcastle 0-0, and I looked at them and thought, you know, you keep playing like that, you'll stay up. They beat Everton as well. You know, their home form, they need to turn Ellen Road into a fortress. And, you know, on another day, a performance like that beats most Premier League teams. On most games, he would have beat us. You know what I mean? But we managed to fight in there. So shout out Leeds. You know, keeping Calvert-Lewin fit will be important for them, as well as some of the players that they got injured. You know, if they had Nonto playing today, would have caused a few more problems. But like I say, as much as I'm alright with Leeds, as much as I love football, don't care if they lost. I thought I'd comment on it. In terms of our team, you know, I made some notes, which I've started doing to make these videos. So there's a few things that, even though we won the game, I want to bring up some positives and some negatives. You know, positive, again, Tell we can bring him into games, give him minutes and win them. You know, because we played West Ham, Tell went up front, everyone went mad, we lost 3-0. Went to Ellen Road, Tell up front, everyone went mad, we won 2-1. And, you know, thanks to Tell, he scored this time as well. You know, we got to take the positives out of the fact that we've won. You know, I woke up this morning, cooking the kids breakfast, and I said to myself, I know we're not going to, you know, are we title challengers? No. Are we going to set the world alight? Probably not. Am I taking a year off because we've won a cup and we've got a new manager? Yes, I am. At the same time, though, if we win this game, we put ourselves in a nice position. You know, you're looking at Bournemouth, for instance. You know, Bournemouth have started brilliantly. I watched them yesterday. Absolutely fantastic team. And they're going to be looking at that thinking, we're not pushing for the Champions League potentially. We're not trying to win the league. But if we beat Fulham, we're in a nice position. It's the same with Tottenham. You know, after winning the Europa League. So us winning that put us in second, not only to put us second spot, it's a point behind Liverpool, who everyone's talking about are going to, you know, walk the league. You know, we've gone above Arsenal. Granted, they're probably going to beat West Ham. But, you know, West Ham done the job of them last season. Not to say that I think they'll do that, but I hope they do. Shout out Nuno, once a year. But, yeah, those are the positives you've got to take. Another positive was Bentancur today, man. You know, he does a job for Spurs a lot of the time that goes very unnoticed. He just runs around, he tries to dictate the play, wins the ball back, plays it simple. You know, he'll make the odd mistake, but what midfielder doesn't? So, you know, shout out Bentancur. He was my man of the match. You know, Kudus will get it because he scored the goal and he was a threat. But I really do like Bentancur. Is there going to say? Am I going to say that there's better midfielders out there? Of course there is. But for the squad we've got, you know, we had Ange that couldn't get the best out of Bentancur, and Thomas Frank's doing that quite easily. You know, another plus I'd say was Xavi Simons playing in his own position. At times he looked threatening. I think what he needs to do is just relax. I think he's trying too much to impress, because he's somebody that by now would say to himself he would have scored, he'd have assisted. He hasn't done either of that, and then he's trying to do the Rabonas when that could have been 2-1. He was putting a bit too much effort in, but in a weird way, as much as you don't like that, you do like it because at least he's trying. So I'll class that as a positive, a negative. You know, depends how you like your glass full. I don't want to put dampeners on there, but things to, I don't want to say weaknesses, I'll say, you know, improvements. You know, you're looking at Pedro Porro. Going forward, excellent. You know, if we had a back three with him going forward, love the guy. But when you've got somebody that's physically imposing as a left winger up against him, you might as well not play him. You know, we've seen it against Bournemouth with Semenyo. You know, and there's other left wingers out there that will give him problems. So I think Thomas Frank, what he needs to learn is that if we're going to go and play teams that have got physically imposing wingers that are quick, stick Jed Spence out there. Because I think with Jed Spence and the doggy in there, I don't even think we can see today. But more to the point, I'm not going to sit there and blame Pedro Porro, because the reason why we conceded today was Vicario. You know, Vicario saved us at the end, which I'm grateful for, but at the same time he puts us in a bit of mess. So I like Vicario, but then I'm never going to love him because he needs to improve in them things. I think a lot of the time he's erratic. He's that goalkeeper. He's that guy that, you know, makes mistakes and starts shouting at everybody else. You know, he needs to improve in his game. You know, set pieces. You know, I'm not overly confident he's going to deal with them. I think we're dealing with them better because we've got people in positions to protect Vicario, which is what Ange didn't do. I don't know, make this the Ange show, but it's just facts. And I think, you know, another thing that I would say is that if we're going to go to a back five with Danso in, shout out Danso, somebody that I rate as a top professional. I think if we go to a back five, we can still push up. Do you know what I mean? Because what it was that even though we were winning 2-1, we were kind of saying to Leeds, you know, have a shot, have a go at us. And, you know, Strauch and Calvert-Lewin, there was times where they threatened, and I thought, well, if we had a back five and pushed up, we're still solid enough. Just make sure that Leeds are trying to threaten us further up the pitch. But that's it really. You know, if I want to talk about the refereeing decisions, one, I didn't understand where the 6 minutes came from. Didn't understand that. You tell me. I think, you know, the powers that be probably wanted to see a bit more excitement at Tottenham's expense. And then just certain things with consistency. You know, like with Longstaff getting injured. You know, not being told to come off, took the free kick that put the pressure on us, and which led to their goal. I don't understand how referees are not following the rules. You know, the police put the rules out there, but if I go and stab someone in the leg, am I going to prison? Yes, so follow the rules. But besides that, I'm a happy Yids. Tottenham have won. We're second in the league for possibly a few hours, possibly for the international break. It just depends what Arsenal and West Ham do, as well as Liverpool at Stamford Bridge tomorrow. Even though it doesn't influence our position, it influences how many points we are behind them. But I just want us to keep going. Like I said to everybody in previous videos, I'm taking this season out to let Thomas Frank do what he does, because one manager that I actually trust is going to do what he needs to do. And just like every other manager, whether you're a Chelsea fan, an Arsenal fan, a Liverpool fan, you give him time. And I'm giving him time, and he's working wonders with some players that I never thought would cut the mustard. So up the Spurs. Remember, like, share, subscribe and comment and do all of that. Hope you lot have a blessed weekend. God bless you all. Love. Jacob on the one up top.